In our last episode, we got chased out of an anchorage by a swarm of bees and explored some uncharted waters. This time around, we find ourselves in new territory and discover some amazing anchorages which we have all to ourselves. As nice as our time was in San Rafael, even with those 18 miles of private sandy beach that begged to be explored, our time there wasn't gonna last long. Well, we're out of there. Unfortunately, our nice, calm, secluded anchorage we had all to ourselves, sometime in the middle of the night, we got rocked. Oh, it's like we were on a passage. We didn't sleep at all. Flat calm, zero wind, but somewhere up the sea there's some sort of weather going on because we got a whole lot of chop that just came right down in there. Ear to ear, all night. Kind of miserable. So, as soon as the sun came up, we're out of there, heading north. But that's kind of a good thing because Ken and Sebastian, who we've been traveling with for about the last 2 months, their time in Mexico is running out. They got to head back to the States pretty quick. And so we'd like to have another day or so with them before they're gone. And the only way for us to do that is to get our butts in gear and get moving north. So today's going to be a motor fest. There's zero wind and we got about 40 miles to cover. Off we go. But I guess the downside of peeling out of there is we easily could have spent another couple of days there. It's a cool little spot. I guess we did get a few miles of our own private 18-mile long beach explored. We hiked up into the hills a bit. Had a nice little swim on that beach. We had some fun, but it's kind of the constant problem. There's always more to see and do than you can fit into a lifetime. There's just never enough time. That's the struggle. And it's real. So for the next 40 miles, I lamented the struggle and the hum of the diesel engine as we passed by some incredible scenery that we'd realistically never set foot on. But by the end of the day, we made it to this place. Well, we made it to another pretty amazing spot up here in the Sea of Cortez, and it only took us about 7 hours of burning up old dead dinosaurs to get here. That's the most motoring we've had to do in months, really. It's been a long time since we've had to do that. But we made it, and this place is incredible. This is Punta Electron, which translated means the point of scorpions. And if there's one thing I can tell you about Mexico, things are named literally. So my guess is there's a whole bunch of scorpions on this point. So I guess that means we got to go for a hike and try to find them. Probably not bringing a camera because it's hot out and I don't want to carry it. And if we find someone get eaten alive by scorpions, I don't want the evidence. We'll see you later. To our surprise, we didn't find one scorpion, and we didn't get eaten alive. But what we did find was that this place had some incredible scenery. For us, the northern Sea of Cortez would prove to have some of the most incredible anchorages we've seen to date. And the fact that other than the caretaker of this luxury private camping resort was the only other soul around, that made this place even more spectacular. But as great as this place was, there was some pretty severe weather coming on the forecast. So the next morning, we would leave this little slice of paradise behind and look for a little better weather protection. Well, we made it to Ensenada El Pescador, which means Fisherman's Bay. This is only about 2 miles from where we stayed last night. And based on the guidebooks and charts, it looks like this should have a little better protection from the wind than the last spot. For the next couple of days, the forecast is showing possibly gale force winds coming out of the northwest, which means we want some protections. Just over here, there's a little island and a pretty good prominent point up here. So we'll see how this rides out. Hopefully it'll be a good spot to hang out for a couple of days and wait for this to blow over. But it looks pretty cool. Right up on shore, there's an old abandoned luxury resort. We've seen quite a few of those in Mexico. I don't know what happened to this place. If you know, tell me. I've got no internet access. I can't look this stuff up. But it looks like a pretty cool place to go explore. And I know there's some hiking trails that go to the next bay north. So, it's gonna be home sweet home for a couple of days. Unless it gets too rowdy, then we'll go somewhere else. But I think it should work out pretty well. Since this little spot was gonna be home sweet home for the next couple of days, that of course meant we had to go to shore and check this place out. And the first thing that's impossible to miss are the remnants of this old luxury resort way out in the middle of nowhere. But for us, what was even more interesting than an old abandoned luxury resort way out in the middle of nowhere was the landscape once you got up into the hills. With evidence everywhere of the region's highly volcanic past, otherworldly and dramatic are a couple of words that come to mind. And for those sailors who have an interest in geology, fossil hunting, or just combing through a pile of rubble to see what this place is all about, or even a combination of all three, this place was really hard to beat. Well, look at this view. I know a lot of people aren't that enthralled with the desert landscape, but I think it's incredible. The color, the texture, and the life that's in this seemingly impossible environment. It's amazing. But also this coastline, in this like 7-mile stretch, there's 10 different anchorages, all remote and incredible. And there's nobody here. It's just us. Can't beat it. Pretty amazing. But really, look at this view. Actually, Brenda and I were just talking about this yesterday. There's, I think for a lot of people, a big dream of having a remote, secluded anchorage all to yourselves with no other boat around. It's getting harder and harder to find. People are cruising all over the world. But here, we're getting them all the time. So stay home. Don't come here. We want it all to ourselves. Just kidding. It's pretty awesome. Come see it.
It looks like petrified wood. But it's weird because there's this mineral vein right here. It looks like there's rings of a tree.
But as great as this place was, this would be another short-lived anchorage for us. Because those building gale force winds that were supposed to be happening, well, they looked like they were petering out. And with Ken and Sebastian heading for an anchorage that was only about 7 miles north of us, we decided to take this break in the weather and make a run for it, and hopefully catch up with the team. And when we pulled into Puerto Don Juan, good old Ken, he was already nice and snug up in the anchorage. And after we got ourselves set, guess who else pulled in? Puerto Don Juan is considered to be the best natural hurricane hole in the northern Sea of Cortez. With a narrow entrance channel getting into this bay and towering hills giving nearly 360 degrees of protection, Puerto Don Juan is truly an all-weather anchorage. And this place, it was gonna be home sweet home for the next few days. Well, we made it to Puerto Don Juan. Actually, we got here last night. We had actually thought we'd sit at the last anchorage for a couple of days riding out what was supposed to be some gale force winds. But while we were hiking around, those winds sort of petered out. So we made a run for it because Ken and Sebastian, they were up here. We were trying to catch up with them because their season here in Mexico is running out quickly. So hoping to spend a couple more days with them before they're gone, and we finally caught them. That's because we got a racing stripe. So we're gonna check this place out right over here, right up over that ridge. I think we can climb over and check out one of these other bays. So going for a hike. See ya. But that's about it for this episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.